I'm Emmanuel Acho, but listen closely because I'm going to tell you the most startling thing you'll probably hear all day. Generational quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback prospect we've evaluated in the last 20 years coming out of college, more likely to fail in the NFL than succeed. Now, why? It's not Trevor Lawrence's fault, and it's not necessarily my opinion, but I've realized that in life and in football, it's not your talent alone that dictates your success, but rather the environment that you're in. Let's talk Bill Gates, maybe one of the wealthiest, not maybe, one of the wealthiest people our world has ever seen. Well, Bill Gates grew up in Seattle, and in 7th grade, his father, a wealthy lawyer, moved him from a public school to a private school. By his 2nd year at this private school, there was a computer club that was started. Now, because this computer club was started by the mothers of the school, because they had enough money to start this computer club, by 8th grade, Bill Gates was proficient in computer programming in 1968, a time where several college campuses didn't even have computers. Imagine if Bill Gates didn't grow up in that environment. Would we have ever seen his talent maximized? So why will Trevor Lawrence fail? Well, because I look at those who have come before him, and stats show that #1 overall picks at quarterback more likely to fail than succeed. Y'all look at it. When I talk about success for a #1 pick, a player that's supposed to come in and change the totality of a franchise, success to me has to be at least 4 Pro Bowls or going to a Super Bowl. So when you talk about the success stories, Jared Goff succeeded. Now, he's succeeded enough that his team just traded him, but at least he went to a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Mike Vick, you see it, multiple Pro Bowls or All Pros or NFL MVPs. Now, when you talk about some of the failures, Jameis, we don't have to waste much time there because in the here and now, you would say a success, his career was a failure. Matthew Stafford, yes, he has a great arm, but 0-0 in the playoffs. He ain't won nothing. Now, he's been a few times, but he ain't won nothing. You can look at the rest of the names on the list. DeMarcus Russell, Carson Palmer, Alex Smith. The fact of the matter is this. It doesn't necessarily matter how talented you are, because Carson Palmer, he won a Heisman. Jameis Winston, he won a Heisman. Sam Bradford, he won a Heisman. All these dudes were incredibly talented out of college, but the environments they went to, it didn't cultivate their talent. So when I think about Trevor Lawrence, a generational talent, I wonder, is he more likely to succeed or fail at the next level? I can't answer that best, but I know someone who can. How about Heisman winner, Matt Leinart, my guy? So, Matt,
what's up, man?
It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. Trevor Lawrence, more likely to succeed or fail in the NFL?
Well, gosh, I mean, with the expectation that you have getting to a Super Bowl or multiple Pro Bowls, I don't know if any of these quarterbacks are going to succeed, but look, you're absolutely right. It all depends on the environment, the culture, the organization that you go to, because as you said, every single one of those guys on that list had maybe not generational talent, but had extreme talent, could play the position as well as anybody in the country. The thing for me with Trevor Lawrence, and the reason why I believe he will be a successful quarterback and helping turning around the Jaguars franchise, is a couple of reasons. One is just, it feels like he was built for this. If I just go back to his Clemson days as a true freshman, he gets the nod. He leads them to a national championship over Nick Saban in Alabama. A lot of people thought he was ready to come into the draft after his true freshman year and would have been the #1 pick. That's high expectation. That's a lot of pressure on that kid. All that kid did was get to multiple playoffs, national championship games, and become a great leader. And I know you'll appreciate this, Ach, is the on the field talent is there. And I could say up here, well, he's going to be a great quarterback because he's really talented. Yeah, well, he is really talented, but that doesn't always equal success. His leadership qualities and his ability, not only on the field, but off the field. You talk about this past season with the social injustices, the player movement, the fight to get the players back into play college football. He spearheaded a lot of those movements as a 20-year-old kid. This kid, he gets it. He understands what it takes. And look, if I'm picking a player to be the face of a franchise for the next 10 to 15 years, it's Trevor Lawrence. And the last thing I would say is Urban Meyer is the head coach. I got to know Urban very well the last couple of years. I consider him a very close friend. I really examined and studied what makes him tick and what made him so special and how he brought that to our big noon kickoff show. There is one thing that I'll tell you right now is that dude, that coach is one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. And I know he's new in the NFL. And again, we don't know if he's going to be a successful coach in the NFL, but I promise you this, he will create an environment that will allow Trevor Lawrence to be successful. I know that. I know that for a fact. He's done that everywhere. He did at the collegiate level. He's going to do that at the NFL level with the assets they have, the salary cap, the good young core pieces that they have, they can build around. Again, it's an opinion, and again, statistics, historically, traditionally, more times than not, these number one picks fail. I just don't think that's the case with Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a special player. He's a special leader. And I believe he will get the Jaguars back to relevance and get them to multiple playoff appearances.
Appreciate that, Matt. Stay right there. Coming back to you shortly. But Bucky, joined by NFL analyst Bucky Brooks, you answer me this. Is Trevor Lawrence more likely to succeed or fail in the NFL?
Oh, he is absolutely going to succeed. And he's going to succeed because Matt really outlined the reasons that I believe he's going to be successful. It's not about the talent, because the talent is extraordinary. We've seen guys that have come in, been five-star recruits, have all the tools that you want. But this is about his leadership ability. Matt alluded to the last offseason when he took the lead at Clemson and got college football back to playing. And then we think about the social injustice and the things that he did for his teammates. At the end of the day, the quarterback position is a leadership position. It is one where your quarterback is supposed to give everybody else in the organization hope. When you think about Trevor Lawrence and all the things that he was able to do at Clemson, when he stepped on the field, the optimism sprung because people knew that our quarterback would figure out a way to get it done. Mm-hmm. And I think in Jacksonville, that has never happened. They've never had an A-level quarterback to step in like that. And when you marry him with Urban Meyer, someone who has a track record for getting it done, that's when the success happens. I think the organization will make it right.
Well, Bucky, I gotta respond to you as I also respond to Matt, because, fellas, let's just talk about these number one overall picks at QB. Again, if y'all are just tuning in, I'm discounting Eli Manning. He forced himself out. I'm not talking about Kyler. I'm not talking about Burrow. They're the last two quarterbacks. Alex Smith had to go elsewhere. Jamarcus Russell retired quickly. Andrew Luck retired early. Carson Palmer had to go elsewhere. Matthew Stafford, he's now gone elsewhere. Jared Goff had to go elsewhere. Jameis Winston, he's gone elsewhere. The list goes on and on. Michael Vick, he's gone elsewhere. Literally every quarterback except the last three, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and Andrew Luck, because he retired, they all had to go elsewhere to truly find their maximal success. Alex Smith went to an NFC championship game in San Francisco with the 49ers, but, let's be real. It was his days in Kansas City when they were winning 12 when he got there before being replaced by Patrick Mahomes, where we finally said, you know what, Alex Smith, maybe we've seen more good than we've seen bad. Talk about Carson Palmer. He completely revitalized the Bengals from being nothingness to winning 11 games. But remember, it's really what he did with Bruce Arians and the Arizona Cardinals when they went to an NFC championship game, I believe, against the Carolina Panthers, where we said, you know what, Carson Palmer, we've forgotten about all the bad and even that little stint in Oakland. And we're like, yo, you were really a very, very competent quarterback. So if I'm telling y'all, all these former number one picks, Leinart, that they honestly had to go elsewhere to get their success. Let me also tell you, Matt, that the last 3 years, the Jaguars have had the worst record in the NFL. 9 of their last 10 years, they've had at least 10 losses. How can you be so convinced that Trevor Lawrence, with limited help as it stands right now, will find a way to turn that Jaguars organization around?
Well, listen, they were in the playoffs not too long ago with Blake Bortles, a handful of seasons ago with that defense. And again, it's, these teams are cycles. And I firmly believe in what Trevor Lawrence can do. And Bucky both talked about the leadership and the persona and the personality that he has. Guys are going to follow. That city is going to follow. The ownership, the general manager, all of those guys. And look, this is my opinion. I was around Urban Meyer. I believe coach is anything he touches turns to gold. And the NFL is, and I told him before he made those decisions to be a head coach in the NFL, hey, it's a different beast up there. This isn't college. This is the NFL. It's a business. These are grown men, but coach is a special guy now, and he gets it. And I know he did his diligence, his research on building a staff and the organization and what does it take to build. And he will stop at nothing to build a winning organization in Jacksonville. That's going to be his signal caller right there, that he believes is going to lead this team back to a playoff, maybe even a Super Bowl. But just a few years ago, they were in the playoffs. So, this team, look, they're a really young roster. They got a lot of, they got tons of draft picks over the next couple years. If they can make some right decisions here up top, from the ownership to the general manager to Coach Meyer, this is a team, especially in that division, with what do we know what's going to happen with Deshaun and Houston. Obviously, Tennessee's a good football team, solid team. The Colts just made a big trade. So, who knows? But I'm a firm believer in Trevor Lawrence's talent on and off the field, his leadership ability, his ability to rally a team, rally a city. Just like we said, he rallied a whole country of college football players to get back on the field. The kid's special. Urban Meyer is special, and it might take a couple of years. It takes a couple of years to build a franchise, but there's no reason why I don't think they can do that.
Matt, you led me to another question, and I can't wait to get your take on this follow-up. But first, I got to ask you, Bucky Brooks, what's more important then? Is it the quarterback or the organization? Here's why I present this. Because, Matt, as you were talking, it made me think about this clear matter that by any statistical metric, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, who entered the draft in the same year, Matt, I'm sure you know both of those players' game incredibly well if you don't know both individuals incredibly well. By any statistical metric individually, Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Eli Manning. Higher completion percentage the course of his career. More touchdowns, significantly more touchdowns the course of his career. A better winning percentage throughout the course of his career, and still less interceptions while throwing for more touchdowns throughout the course of his career. So any individual statistical metric, Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback. Eli Manning forces a trade, goes to a Giants organization, a much more competent organization than a Chargers organization. Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Phillip Rivers, a 5-7 playoff record. The furthest he ever got was an AFC championship game. So I'm led to believe that it really doesn't matter how good you are at quarterback if the organization can't get right. Bucky Brooks, what say you?
Oh, I say it's all about the organization, because what Matt will talk about, and as you throw up all those failing statistics of the quarterbacks that have been number 1 overall, you go to the worst team. Normally, the team that drafts number 1 overall is already dysfunctional by design, meaning a lack of talent, constant turnover at the head coaching position, maybe even turnover with the general manager. So you have all these things working against a quarterback. So it's a struggle to have success. That said, when I look at this situation as it relates to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, to build a championship team, it is a people business, meaning it's about 2 things: trust and commitment. Are you committed to being the best that you can be individually? And then is this team committed to being the best that they can be collectively? And can you trust that everyone is going to pull the boat in the right direction? When I think about Trevor Lawrence and everything that you hear people talk about him, first one in, last one out, natural leader, has always been the guy that was hailed as the number 1 quarterback prospect throughout the recruiting ranks, going into college, and he lived up to it. I think about Urban Meyer being able to orchestrate turnarounds. 1, Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, Ohio State. Regardless of making the jump from college to the pros, he has a blueprint for getting teams to play at a championship level. I believe with those factors, at some point, this organization is going to succeed because they have the right guys in the right spots.
Yeah, I totally agree, Bucky. And I think, first of all, organizations are I don't want to say far more important than the quarterback, but they are the most important thing, because, from ownership, and really, if you look at all the pillars, right, the owner, general manager, head coach, some head coach serve as a general manager as well, personnel department, staff, coaches, all of those things, you have to be in line. As you said, the trust, the commitment from an organizational standpoint to the very top to the very bottom. If an owner has a clear vision, a clear mission, an identity of what they want to do in the hiring process, then a lot of that culture, that environment breeds success. I played for a couple teams at that time that, I wouldn't say dysfunctional, but there wasn't great organization from the top to the bottom, and that showed up. And obviously I didn't personally play that well as a quarterback, but I've been around those types of environments. I would look at like the Cleveland Browns. You look at what Dorsey's done with the Cleveland Browns. You go back a couple of years ago, the Cleveland Browns are, for lack of a better phrase, the laughing stock. They're never going to win. They change quarterbacks every year. And look what they've done. And I know, Acho, you had Baker out there as a failure to your standard right now, but look what they've done around him. They've built a team around him that plays to his strengths with a good defense, a great run game, play action, all those stuff. And look at the success he had last year. And they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And a lot of people may say, hey, they could be a potential Super Bowl contender in the years to come. And that's not a Hall of Fame level quarterback at this point. That's all about decision making, right? And building that environment and changing the culture in Cleveland. So it definitely starts at the top with the decision makers of building a team around these young quarterbacks, doing whatever it takes to breed success on the field, off the field. The outliers, you look at, obviously Tom Brady going to Tampa. Tom Brady's the GOAT. He went to that organization. They won a Super Bowl. But you look at the decisions they made, and then you look at the decisions they made this offseason to keep everybody intact. I mean, that's how you build championship teams. The Jacksonville's not there. It's going to take some time to get there, but I just believe that they have a head coach that has a vision, knows what it takes to be successful. And it doesn't matter if you're at the collegiate level or the professional level. So, look, I'm excited. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited for all of these guys to see where they go and to see what Urban can do in Jacksonville.
Well, here's what we do know, that Trevor Lawrence has an abundance of potential when it comes to what he can do in the NFL. One of the best arms we've seen. He's incredibly cerebral. He can process information very quickly, and he can run as well. But if you look up the dictionary definition of potential or even potential energy, you come across a little phrase in its definition that talks about stresses within itself. And I know Trevor Lawrence this year is going to have a whole lot of stress trying to write that shit in Jacksonville.